The night was too quiet to be safe. Above the deep black sky over western Iran, two B-2 Spirit bombers soared silently, cloaked in radar-absorbing matte black. They moved like ghosts, no lights, no sound from below, invisible to the thousands of eyes that would kill to find them. In the cockpit, Major Cole Shepard stared at the digital display glowing in soft red tones. His co-pilot, Captain Lisa Tran, tapped in the updated coordinates. The target had shifted. Intel indicated that the underground complex had moved personnel and possibly activated the missile transport corridor. "You sure this is a bunker and not a decoy?" Cole asked, his voice low but tense. Lisa didn't answer right away. She was thinking, calculating. SIGINT confirms thermal signatures, multiple tunnel networks converging into the mountain. "This is it, Cole. This is the primary." Below them, buried deep beneath layers of ancient stone and reinforced concrete, was the Shahid Badr Research Facility, a covert military installation that had evaded detection for over a decade. Now it stood in the crosshairs. These weren't just any bombs they carried. The B-2 Spirits were armed with the GBU-57A-B massive ordnance penetrator, a 30,000-pound monster known in the defense world as a bunker buster. Designed not to explode on contact, but to burrow deep, sometimes over 60 meters before delivering its payload. They were not here to start a war. The war had already started. No declaration, no official order, just a whispered authorization across an encrypted channel, and two bombers lifted off from a base no one would ever name. 3 weeks ago, Iran had activated its third-stage centrifuges in Isfahan. A U.S. satellite had picked up radiation spikes. A red line had been crossed. The world didn't know, yet. Back in Tehran, General Mohammad Razi was watching the skies, unaware his window of command was about to close. He was the architect of the underground program, a figure feared more than seen. His belief was simple. If Iran couldn't defend itself with open strength, it would defend itself with shadows. And now the shadows were being hunted. Inside the B-2, Cole could feel it in his chest, the sense that history was being written, or perhaps erased. In a rural village 40 kilometers from the target zone, 12-year-old Armand chased his younger sister around a dry courtyard. Their laughter was the only sound, apart from the soft rustle of the wind moving through olive trees. Far away, screens flickered in underground command centers in Washington, D.C., Tel Aviv, and Riyadh. Monitors showed weather patterns, blast radii, bunker specs, seismic data. War had become a game of calculations, numbers traded for lives. "I have lock," Lisa said, arming one. "Confirm GPS integrity," Cole responded. "GPS confirmed, fusing 3 seconds post-penetration. Optimal yield expected." The target was buried under 100 feet of limestone and steel, but it wouldn't matter. The GBU-57 was designed exactly for this. It didn't just destroy, it collapsed mountains. It made hiding irrelevant. "Target in range, 10 seconds to release," Lisa said. Cole steadied his breath. Phew, God help us. And then, release. 2 bombs in succession dropped into the void, falling silently, invisibly. At first there was nothing, just the soft hum of electronics and the eerie calm of being 50,000 feet above life and death. Then the ground began to move. Thousands of tons of rock cracked inward. A delayed pressure wave lifted dust into the stratosphere. Underneath, a facility carved out over 10 years crumbled in 10 seconds. The warhead didn't explode in fire, it exploded in force. Layers of steel folded like paper. Support beams snapped like toothpicks. Hundreds died instantly. The others, those not killed by the collapse, died slower, gasping under crushing silence, buried alive under a secret they could never tell. Back at base, a silent green success flag blinked on a classified server. At the Pentagon, no one clapped. This was not a mission for celebration. It was a message. In Tehran, when the ground trembled, no alarms went off. No missiles lit the sky in return. The radar hadn't seen the B-2s. The defense systems never activated. But within the hour, the silence broke. News spread through encrypted messages, through cries from within collapsed homes near the facility, through the screams of survivors pulled from rubble. Iran knew, and it was angry. In retaliation, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard began mobilizing all missile units. General Razi, who had escaped the bunker collapse by less than an hour, issued a direct order: strike U.S. assets in the region, regardless of political consequence. Across the Persian Gulf, U.S. bases entered full alert, anti-air batteries activated, destroyers repositioned. The war that wasn't declared had just found its voice. Israel, sensing the shift, activated its Iron Dome and Arrow 3 systems. Hezbollah moved in the north, Syria bristled, and then came the first strike back. Not on a base, but on a ship. A U.S. naval vessel stationed near the Strait of Hormuz was hit by a short-range ballistic missile. No casualties, but a warning. Iran was not going to be silent. In the weeks that followed, cities were caught between rumor and fear. People stocked food, schools closed, embassies evacuated. The UN held emergency meetings, but no resolution passed. Russia blocked one. China abstained. The people, as always, paid the price. China abstained? The people, as always, paid the price. Arman, the boy who had been playing just outside the blast zone, now sat silently beside his injured mother in a crowded hospital. Dust covered his face. He hadn't spoken since the night of the explosion. Is the war coming here? It's already here, Cole returned home a week later. No one greeted him. His base was silent. He was ordered not to talk about the mission, but it lived inside him. The footage, the data, the cold logic that had led them to drop a 30,000-pound declaration of intent on a country still breathing. He dreamed of tunnels, of walls caving in, of voices screaming through comms before cutting out. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't a villain. He was a tool used by men in suits, in buildings with no windows. In Tehran, General Razi visited what remained of Shahid Badr. He stood atop a ridge looking at a landscape torn open. Smoke still rose from hidden fissures. He clenched his fists. They think they've won, determined, he said to his aide. But they've only shown us who we must become. Plans were already in motion. New allies, new strategies, new weapons. The next war wouldn't be underground. It would be everywhere. The ash hadn't settled, and yet the world had already moved on. Across television networks in Europe and Asia, there was only a whisper, a subtle shift in language. Analysts said tensions were rising. Politicians used words like surgical, preemptive, containment, but none of them meant peace. In the streets of Tehran, the truth was simpler. A wound had been opened, and the bleeding hadn't stopped. General Razi's visit to the ruins had changed him. In private, he said little, but behind closed doors, he moved fast. Missile sites reactivated. New orders flew out in encrypted bursts, and beneath the cities, cyber units were told to go dark, into full offensive mode. They didn't need to fire missiles to strike back. They just needed a keyboard. At Langley, Virginia, the CIA's cyber division picked up the first pulse at 3:14 a.m., a silent ping from Tehran, then another, then 1,000. The lights in the Situation Room dimmed to red, urgent. Massive infiltration attempt. Energy grid, water systems, aviation networks, said a young analyst, sweat beading under blue light. A senior officer leaned forward, disbelieving. Is this a drill? Firmly. No, sir. On the screen, a U.S. air traffic control interface glitched. Several civilian flights were rerouted without warning. Chaos brewed quietly. In Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Reuben Gold sat with his military council. The Israelis had not been informed in advance of the B-2 strike, and it left them exposed. Iran wouldn't just retaliate against America, they would retaliate against them, and Israel knew it. Calmly, activate Arrow, keep Iron Dome at high readiness, Gold said calmly, determined. We won't strike first, but we will strike last. He looked out the window where clouds were gathering over the Mediterranean. In the Iranian city of Shiraz, 26-year-old Layla Mahdavi sat with her father, who hadn't left the radio since the attack. Her brother was a conscripted soldier. He was supposed to return home that week. He didn't. Shaken. There was a collapse near the mountain, he had written in his last text. I'm okay, uncertain, I think. That was 4 days ago. Layla stared out the cracked window of their apartment. The shops were half closed. Currency had lost half its value overnight. And yet no one panicked, not visibly. Iran had been through this before. But this was different. This time, it wasn't a standoff. It wasn't empty rhetoric or naval stares in the Gulf. It was war. The kind that pretended it wasn't. In the hills of Tabriz, a mobile radar unit buzzed. Its technicians had no idea what to expect anymore. The skies were silent, but that meant nothing now. The B-2s had taught them silence was deadlier than thunder. They kept scanning. Every dot, every flicker, every faint signature. They paced the Foracade to when said this video. But the truth was clear. If the Americans wanted to strike again, they wouldn't see it coming. Meanwhile, in Washington, the president was briefed in a serious. They've activated retaliatory protocols. Short pause. So far, only digital. But we anticipate a kinetic response within 48 hours. Concerned. From where? The president asked. Resigned. Iraq? Short pause. Lebanon? Short pause. Syria? Short pause. Possibly Yemen. Anxious. And if they strike Israel? Gravely, then we all get pulled in. A long silence followed. Firmly. I want no footage, no press, no comment. Respectfully, yes, sir. But it didn't matter. The war was already trending. On social media, satellite images were shared with conspiracy captions. Civilians filmed strange streaks in the sky, sounds without echoes, and massive cracks appearing in the earth. No one knew what was true. That made everything lander. Arman, the young boy from the village near the blast, still hadn't spoken. His father tried stories, his mother tried song, but Arman just sat and stared. He drew pictures now, tunnels, fire, a bird with broken wings. He didn't know what a B-2 bomber was, but he had seen it. Or maybe he had just felt it in the air, in the way the night had folded around the sound of nothing. They called it the whisper of death, and it had come for them. In a remote desert airfield in Nevada, Major Cole Shepard was grounded. Not because he was in trouble, but because the mission was over and no one knew what to do with him now. He had killed hundreds, maybe thousands, and yet the mission logs would list nothing. The memory card in his B-2 had already been wiped. The debrief was under seal. Lisa Tran, his co-pilot, was reassigned. She didn't ask why. They never did. Cole watched the desert winds outside the airfield fence. He thought about the boy in the village. He didn't know if there was a boy, but his gut told him there had to be. There always was. In Qom, a speech echoed through ancient stone chambers. The supreme leader spoke only once that week, but it was enough. Authoritative, we were attacked not with honor but with shadow. So we will answer with silence they cannot predict. This war will not be fought on front lines. Short pause. It will be fought in places their bombs cannot reach. The next day, a power plant in Eastern Europe shut down unexpectedly. In Tokyo, a financial institution lost access to its trading servers for 6 hours. No one claimed responsibility, but everyone knew who it was. War had evolved. It was no longer a matter of bombs and boots. It was silent code and falling currencies, of unseen jets and invisible sabotage, but people still died. A hospital in Basra went dark during a cyber blackout. 15 patients died before backup generators kicked in. It wasn't an official act of war, but the families didn't care. To them, war was already here. Layla's brother finally called. His voice was weak. He had a concussion. He had seen others die. I saw them, Layla, he whispered. They didn't even know they were dying. It just folded in. Like the mountain was swallowing itself. She cried, not because he was alive, but because he was changed. And there was nothing she could do. Back in Washington, a decision was made quietly. No more strikes. Not now, not unless Iran crossed another red line. But the definition of a red line was now a moving target. Cole knew he would fly again, and when he did, there would be no silence. There would be no survival.